This is Veriscope News. Verified data, clear context, no noise. Today's report comes from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The agency released the Business Employment Dynamics Report for the second quarter of 2025 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The report covers the 3 months ended June 2025. The Business Employment Dynamics Program measures gross job gains and gross job losses across the total private sector. It reports employment changes at the establishment level. It does not focus only on net change. It measures the full scale of jobs added and jobs lost during the quarter. Gross job gains include expansions at existing establishments and openings of new establishments. Gross job losses include contractions at existing establishments and closures of establishments. The data are derived from the quarterly Census of employment and wages. That dataset is based on employer filings covering nearly all wage and salary employment in the United States. Today's release presents total private sector figures for the second quarter of 2025. It also allows quarter-over-quarter comparison with the first quarter of 2025. All figures presented here are official. All arithmetic shown is based directly on the reported totals. No projections are included, no interpretation is added. This report reflects job flows across April through June 2025. It provides a structured view of job creation and job destruction across the private economy. The Business Employment Dynamics Program is designed to measure the gross movement of jobs across the economy. It captures both sides of employment change. It counts jobs added and jobs lost separately. Net employment change alone does not show the total volume of movement. Gross job gains and gross job losses show the full scale of activity. Every quarter, millions of jobs are created and millions are eliminated. The net change reflects the difference between those two large totals. The second quarter of 2025 covers April, May, and June. The prior quarter covers January, February, and March. Quarter-over-quarter comparisons use the first quarter of 2025 as the reference period. For the second quarter of 2025, total private sector gross job gains were reported at 7,585,000. Total private sector gross job losses were reported at 7,906,000. For the prior quarter, total private sector gross job gains were 7,448,000. Total private sector gross job losses were 7,238,000. These figures are presented at the total private sector level. The report also provides breakdowns by industry, firm size, and establishment age. The summary cited here reflects the overall totals. All values are reported in number of jobs. All comparisons discussed are quarter over quarter. No revised prior values were stated in the release summary referenced. The release time was 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The second quarter of 2025 shows total private sector gross job losses of 7,906,000. During the same quarter, total private sector gross job gains were 7,585,000. The arithmetic difference between gross job gains and gross job losses for the quarter is calculated as follows. 7,585,000 minus 7,906,000 equals negative 321,000. That figure reflects the net employment change implied by the reported gross totals. Gross job losses exceeded gross job gains by 321,000 jobs during the second quarter of 2025. The prior quarter showed a different balance. In the first quarter of 2025, gross job gains were 7,448,000. Gross job losses were 7,238,000. The arithmetic difference for that quarter is calculated as follows. 7,448,000 minus 7,238,000 equals positive 210,000. In the first quarter of 2025, gross job gains exceeded gross job losses by 210,000 jobs. Quarter-over-quarter changes can also be calculated directly from the gross totals. The change in gross job losses from the first quarter to the second quarter is calculated as follows. 7,906,000 minus 7,238,000 equals 668,000. Gross job losses increased by 668,000 jobs between the first and second quarters of 2025. The change in gross job gains over the same period is calculated as follows. 7,585,000 minus 7,448,000 equals 137,000. Gross job gains increased by 137,000 jobs between the first and second quarters of 2025. The increase in gross job losses was numerically larger than the increase in gross job gains. The second quarter shows both elevated job gains and elevated job losses compared with the prior quarter. The balance between those two totals resulted in gross job losses exceeding gross job gains for the quarter ending June 2025. All figures are establishment-level counts. Gross job gains reflect expansions and openings. Gross job losses reflect contractions and closures. The Business Employment Dynamics program is built on the quarterly census of employment and wages. That dataset covers nearly all private sector employers subject to unemployment insurance laws. The data are based on employer reports. Each establishment is tracked over time. If an establishment expands, the additional jobs are counted as gross job gains. If it contracts, the reduction in jobs is counted as gross job losses. When a new establishment opens, its employment is counted as gross job gains. When an establishment closes, its employment is counted as gross job losses. This framework allows the Bureau of Labor Statistics to measure job flows rather than relying solely on net totals. Large numbers of jobs are created and eliminated each quarter. Even in quarters with modest net change, gross job gains and gross job losses typically measure in the millions. The first quarter of 2025 showed gross job gains of 7,448,000 and gross job losses of 7,238,000. The second quarter showed higher totals on both sides, with 7,585,000 gross job gains and 7,906,000 gross job losses. The program also provides detail by industry sector, firm size class, and establishment age. Younger establishments often show different patterns than older establishments. Larger firms may show different patterns than smaller firms. Those breakdowns provide additional structural detail beyond the total private sector level cited here. The reference period for the second quarter of 2025 is April through June 2025. The reference period for the prior quarter is January through March 2025. All comparisons discussed in this report use the immediately preceding quarter as the baseline. Households. Gross job losses of 7,906,000 represent positions eliminated at contracting or closing establishments. Gross job gains of 7,585,000 represent positions added at expanding or opening establishments. For households, these figures reflect the volume of employment transitions occurring during the quarter. The totals indicate how many positions were eliminated and how many were created across the private sector during the 3-month period. The net arithmetic difference of negative 321,000 reflects the balance between these flows. That figure represents the implied net change when subtracting gross job losses from gross job gains. The comparison with the prior quarter shows a shift in balance. The first quarter of 2025 showed a positive net difference of 210,000. The second quarter showed a negative net difference of 321,000. Prices. The Business Employment Dynamics report does not measure prices. It measures employment flows. The reported figures describe job creation and job destruction. They do not directly include price indices, wage rates, or inflation measures. However, employment flows are one component of the broader economic structure. Job creation and job loss reflect changes in business activity across industries and regions. Jobs. The reported totals show 7,585,000 jobs added through expansions and openings in the second quarter. They show 7,906,000 jobs eliminated through contractions and closures. The increase of 668,000 in gross job losses from the prior quarter indicates a larger number of positions eliminated compared with the first quarter. The increase of 137,000 in gross job gains indicates a smaller relative increase in positions added. The net arithmetic outcome shifted from positive 210,000 in the first quarter to negative 321,000 in the second quarter. Savings. The report does not measure savings levels, it measures employment flows. Employment changes can influence household income patterns. The Business Employment Dynamics release itself does not provide savings data. For businesses, the report captures expansions, contractions, openings, and closures. Expanding establishments contributed to the 7,585,000 gross job gains in the second quarter. Contracting establishments contributed to the 7,906,000 gross job losses. The increase in gross job losses of 668,000 quarter over quarter reflects a higher level of contraction or closure activity compared with the first quarter. The increase in gross job gains of 137,000 reflects a higher level of expansion or opening activity compared with the first quarter. The fact that both gross job gains and gross job losses increased indicates elevated employment turnover during the quarter. The net arithmetic balance reflects the difference between those two totals. The Business Employment Dynamics program continues to track quarterly job flows. Analysts monitor gross job gains and gross job losses to assess the scale of employment reallocation across the economy. Future releases will provide updated totals for subsequent quarters. The program will continue to report establishment-level job creation and job destruction by industry, firm size, and establishment age. Quarter-over-quarter comparisons will allow continued evaluation of changes in gross flows and their arithmetic net differences. The second quarter of 2025 recorded 7,585,000 gross job gains and 7,906,000 gross job losses in the total private sector. The arithmetic difference between these totals is negative 321,000. The prior quarter recorded a positive arithmetic difference of 210,000. Gross job losses increased by 668,000 from the prior quarter. Gross job gains increased by 137,000. These figures describe the scale of job creation and job destruction during the three-month period ending June 2025. The Business Employment Dynamics data are derived from the quarterly census of employment and wages. The census is based on employer reports submitted under unemployment insurance programs. Employment changes are measured at the establishment level. Gross job gains include expansions and openings. Gross job losses include contractions and closures. Quarter-over-quarter changes are calculated by subtracting the prior quarter's totals from the current quarter's totals. All values are reported as counts of jobs. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics released the Business Employment Dynamics Report for the second quarter of 2025 at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. The report covers April through June 2025. Gross job gains totaled 7,585,000. Gross job losses totaled 7,906,000. The arithmetic difference between those totals is negative 321,000. The prior quarter showed gross job gains of 7,448,000 and gross job losses of 7,238,000 for a positive arithmetic difference of 210,000. All figures are official. All calculations are derived directly from reported totals. Verified data, clear context, no noise.